Hi Cancer, Sun, Moon and Rising signs, welcome. This is your 2026 August forecast. If you don't have any Cancer placements, if you feel called to watch this reading, then you're more than welcome to still stay and watch. There's probably a message in this video that you're meant to hear. I'm going to start with a very quick overview of what's happening astrologically in August, and then we'll move into the tarot questions, just to see how these energies may be affecting you personally. As always, please remember this is a collective reading, so take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Let's get straight into it. Alright, before we move into the tarot, let's have a quick look at what is happening astrologically for Cancer throughout August. The biggest theme for Cancer this month is going to be security, particularly your money, self-worth, and what you genuinely need in order to feel stable. Jupiter is now moving through Leo, which for Cancer activates the area connected to income, personal resources, confidence, and recognizing the value of your own skills. This can bring growth around money or work, but it can also show you where you have been undervaluing yourself, accepting less than you deserve, or placing too much of your sense of safety in something external. Then around August 12th or 13th, we have the Leo Solar Eclipse activating the same area. This eclipse could begin a completely new chapter around your income, employment, business, possessions, or self-worth. But because this eclipse is connected to the South Node, the new beginning may first require you to release an old definition of security. You may be moving away from scarcity, undercharging, depending on something that no longer feels stable, or believing that your worth is determined by what you have achieved or accumulated. Mars also enters Cancer during August, bringing a noticeable shift in your energy. You may feel more motivated, more protective of yourself, and much less willing to sit quietly with something that has been bothering you. This can give you the courage to take action, but be mindful of reacting purely from emotion, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed or misunderstood. There's also an important balance being highlighted between your home and family life, and your career or public responsibilities. You may be questioning whether the direction you're currently moving in is actually sustainable for you. This could involve changes within the home, family responsibilities affecting your plans, or the realization that professional success cannot continue coming at the expense of your emotional well-being. Towards the end of August, the Pisces Lunar Eclipse activates your beliefs, spirituality, education, travel, and long-term direction. Something may be revealed that changes the way you see your future. You could be completing a chapter connected to study, travel, or personal growth, releasing an old belief, or finally admitting that a path you once imagined for yourself no longer feels right. Overall, August is asking Cancer to redefine what security means. It's not only about holding tightly to what feels familiar. It's about trusting yourself enough to create stability from your own value, your own choices, and the direction that now feels aligned with who you are becoming. So, with all of that said, let's move into the tarot and begin by looking at the identity Cancer is leaving behind. Okay, so this feels like an identity built around always being capable, always working, always improving, always trying to prove that you can handle whatever is placed in front of you. The Eight of Pentacles can show someone who has become very used to earning their sense of worth through effort. You may feel valuable when you're productive, when you're useful, or when you're constantly working towards the next level. But there can also be a feeling of, if I stop, if I slow down, am I still doing enough? With the King of Wands and Strength, Cancer may also be leaving behind the version of themselves who believes they always have to look confident, composed, and in control. Even when you're tired, even when you're uncertain, even when something is affecting you emotionally. You may have become the strong one, the person who keeps going, takes charge, and holds everything together. But August may be showing you that strength does not always mean pushing through. Sometimes strength is recognizing that you no longer need to prove yourself by carrying everything alone. This does not feel like Cancer is losing their ambition or confidence. It feels like you're leaving behind the need to perform strength, or to constantly work for the worth and recognition that should already belong to you. You're learning that your value is not only found in what you produce, how much you achieve, or how well you cope under pressure. You're still powerful, but you may be becoming much more selective about where your energy goes. So next we're going to look at what the Leo eclipse is beginning for Cancer. Okay, this feels like a sudden truth or a piece of information that changes the way Cancer sees a situation. The Page of Swords is curious, watchful, and alert, so you may already sense that something is shifting, even if you don't have the full picture yet. Then the Tower comes in and says that whatever is unstable, unclear, or built on the wrong foundation may not be able to continue in the same way. This could be a sudden realization, an expected conversation, or a situation that forces you to look at the facts rather than what you hoped would happen. Then with the King of Swords, this does not feel like chaos for the sake of chaos. It feels like the eclipse is pushing Cancer towards clarity. You may need to make a firm decision, set a boundary, or separate emotion from the practical reality of what is in front of you. Because this eclipse is activating money, security, and self-worth, this could connect to work, income, pricing, or financial agreement. Or even finally recognizing that something is not giving you the stability you thought it was. The Page of Swords can also show research, planning, or learning something new, so the Tower may clear out an old path and push you towards a much smarter one. So Cancer, you may be beginning a chapter where you stop second-guessing yourself and start making decisions from a place of truth, strategy, and self-respect. It may feel confronting at first, but the King of Swords suggests that you come out of it seeing the situation much more clearly. Next, we're going to look at what is expanding around money, confidence, and self-worth. Okay, so this feels like Cancer is being encouraged to follow something that genuinely excites them, rather than only choosing what feels safe or practical. The Knight of Cups can bring an offer, invitation, or opportunity that feels emotionally aligned. Then the Page of Wands brings fresh energy, curiosity, and the willingness to try something new. So this expression may come through a creative idea, a new project, sharing your work more confidently, or saying yes to something before you have every single detail. She knows what she brings to the table, and she allows that value to be recognized. This could show Cancer becoming more confident in their talents, charging appropriately for their work, or creating something that has the potential to grow over time. There may also be more pleasure coming into your life, not only financially, but through creativity, beauty, love, self-expression, or simply allowing yourself to enjoy what you are building. The message here is that abundance may begin expanding when Cancer stops operating entirely from survival mode and starts making room for inspiration, confidence, and receiving. Next, we're going to look at the relationship or shared finances truth Cancer needs to see. Alright, this feels like a very clear message about mutual effort. Whether this is referring to a relationship, a financial agreement, or something you're building with another person, it cannot grow properly if you're the only one contributing. The Three of Pentacles is about cooperation, teamwork, and recognizing what each person brings to the situation. Then with the Eight of Wands, this shows communication, movement, and things beginning to progress quickly. So there may be an important conversation, a decision being made, or a situation that has felt stagnant finally beginning to move. But with the Empress coming out for the second time, Cancer is being reminded not to chase, overgive, or prove their value in order to make something work. The truth may be that you already know. The truth may be that you already bring more than enough to the table. In relationships, this can mean allowing the other person to meet you with the same level of care, effort, and intention. Around shared finances, it may mean having clearer conversations about who is contributing what, rather than quietly carrying more than your fair share. There is real potential for growth here, but it comes through collaboration, not Cancer doing everything alone. The repeated Empress is also reinforcing that when you recognize your worth and become more open to receiving, the right people and opportunities are able to meet you there. Next, we're going to look at what is happening around home, family, or career. There's definitely some tension around this area. The Five of Wands can show conflict, competing priorities, or several people wanting different things. This could be disagreements within the family, pressure between your home life and career, or simply feeling like too many demands are pulling at you at once. Then we have the Ten of Swords, which shows that something may have reached the point where it cannot continue in the same way. I also heard the word death while pulling these cards, and I want to be careful with that because I would never use these cards alone to predict a literal physical death. More often, this points to the death of a chapter, the breakdown of a relationship or family dynamic, leaving a workplace, or finally accepting that something has run its course. For some Cancer placements, there may be a painful ending or separation occurring around family, home, or career. But the Eight of Pentacles coming after the Ten of Swords tells me that this is not where the story ends. There's rebuilding here. You may be putting your effort into creating a new routine, developing a skill, finding different work, or simply rebuilding stability after something has fallen apart. And this is also the second time we have the Eight of Pentacles. Earlier, it represented the identity Cancer is leaving behind, constantly working and proving themselves. So perhaps the lesson now is not to stop putting effort in, but to become much more intentional about what deserves that effort. You're not meant to keep working endlessly to preserve something that is already finished. Your energy may now need to go into building what comes next. Now we're going to look at what the Pisces eclipse is asking Cancer to release. Okay, the very first thing I notice is we have two fives, with the Five of Cups and the Five of Swords. Fives often bring disruption, change, and the breaking apart of something that can no longer remain comfortable. So Cancer may be moving through a period where an old emotional pattern is being challenged quite strongly. The Five of Cups shows grief, regret, and focusing on what did not work out. This can be disappointment around a path you thought you would take, a relationship you hoped would become something more, or a version of the future that no longer seems available to you. Then the Five of Swords can show conflict, resentment, or feeling like you have to keep mentally fighting with something that has already happened. You may be replaying conversations, trying to understand why something ended the way it did, or holding on to the need to prove that you were right. But this eclipse may be asking you to release the emotional and mental battle, not because what happened didn't matter, but because continuing to carry it is keeping you connected to the past. Then we have the Ace of Wands. This is new energy, inspiration, and a completely different direction trying to enter. But Cancer may need to stop looking backwards long enough to recognize it. The two fives show that change may feel uncomfortable at first, but the Ace of Wands suggests that this release is creating space for a new idea, a new opportunity, or a sense of purpose that brings your energy back to life. You're not being asked to forget what happened. You're being asked to stop allowing it to decide what happens next. Now we're going to look at what can become stable after August. Okay, this feels like Cancer becoming much more certain about what they're ready to leave behind. The Six of Swords shows movement away from stress, confusion, or conflict. Then the Eight of Cups is the emotional decision to walk away from something that may once have mattered but no longer feels fulfilling. So what becomes stable may not be a specific external situation straight away. It may be Cancer's decision. The decision to stop returning to the same emotional cycle, stop questioning whether they should stay, and finally move towards something that feels more aligned. Then we have the King of Wands appearing again. Earlier this card showed the identity Cancer was leaving behind, the pressure to always appear confident, capable, and in control. But here, that energy feels different. This is not confidence Cancer is performing for other people. This is genuine self-trust. After August, Cancer may feel much clearer about their direction, more decisive about what they want, and much more willing to take the lead in their own life. The stability comes from no longer allowing fear, guilt, or emotional attachment to keep changing your mind. You may still be walking through a transition, but you know where you're going now. And once Cancer makes that internal decision, it becomes much more harder for the past to pull them backwards. So finally, we're going to look at overall advice for Cancer as they navigate August. Alright, Cancer, so for your overall advice, you received Mirror, Reflect for Yourself. This card is asking you to bring your attention back to yourself throughout August, rather than constantly looking outside of yourself for reassurance, confirmation, or permission to make a change. You may need to become very honest about what your own reflection is showing you. What situations keep repeating? Where are you still overworking, overgiving, or trying to prove your value? And where might you already know that something has ended, even though part of you is still struggling to walk away? A mirror can also show you what the people and situations around you are reflecting back. If someone continually makes you question your worth, if a workplace constantly leaves you depleted, or if a family dynamic keeps placing you in the role of carrying everything, August may be showing you something you can no longer ignore. But this is not only about recognizing what needs to change, it's also about seeing your own strength, creativity, and value more clearly. The Empress appeared twice throughout this reading, reminding Cancer that you do not need to chase what is meant to recognize your worth. And the King of Wands appearing twice as well, showing that you're becoming more confident and intentional about the direction you choose next. The advice is to reflect for yourself before reacting to everyone else. Give yourself enough quiet space to understand what you feel, what you want, and what you're no longer willing to carry forward. You may be leaving behind a difficult chapter, but you're not leaving it empty-handed. You're taking this wisdom, the clarity, and the self-respect you gained from it with you. This is everything I have for Cancer throughout August. As always, take what resonates and leave anything that does not. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next reading.